Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to Novel Idea. My name is Dia. Today I have a mid-month wrap-up. I have not been doing very good at wrapping up my month so far, and I don't want to let it get any further than this because I do have quite a few that I need to talk to you about. So without further ado, let's jump in. It is snowing outside, quite heavily. You can't see it. Maybe I'll put a clip in, but it is snowing quite a bit. And I am puppy sitting, so you'll see the pups in the background probably. A little bit here, a little bit there. Sipping some tea. I have Constant Comment today. It's a Bigelow tea. And it's one that I've drank since I was a little kid. I love it. Every time I smell it, it brings back memories of my mama. All right, let's jump in. I am going to cover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books and 1 DNF. So let's start with the DNF. Let's just get it out of the way. That one is A Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole. I really had high hopes for this book. I have heard nothing except the fact that it is funny. And I should know by now that what most people find funny, I don't. And so it was really difficult for me to get even as far as I did. And I was reading this with Becca from Read Becca, and she graciously let me bow out. And I think I was about maybe halfway, somewhere in there. It just was not working at all for me. I think it's well written, but the main character is extremely gracious with himself and not with anyone else. And the way that he treated his mama in this book was, I just wanted to slap him. Slap him something silly. I think that it probably has some things to say, and those things are probably good for people to hear. And I do think that Ignatius, the main character, I think he presents as somebody that is on the spectrum, but I don't think that the way that they handled his character in this book is very well represented. It did give us some clue as to why he might be that way, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to make me like him. So thank you, Becca, for letting me bow out. We are going to try to do another buddy read next month to make up for it. So anyway, that was Confederacy of Dunces, John Kennedy Toole. I will do, I'll just go in order of how I read them. All right, so Golden Thread, and this is by Kassia St. Clair, or Kassia St. Clair. I say Kassia because it's my daughter's name with a K instead of a C, and my daughter's name is Kassia. But it looks like Kassia or Kassia, so it could be that, St. Clair. Golden Thread is about thread. It's about fabric. It's about the history of how different fabrics have changed our civilization, have changed our cultures over the years. And the way that clothing protects us or can harm us, and just the different kinds of materials that they use to weave into fabric. And I thought that it was basically going to be a history of the very first things that they wove into fabrics and how that, created this ability for us to get fabrics today. And the weaving processes and how it came about and all of that. And there was some of that at the very beginning, but it then kind of warped into synthetic fabrics and the different kinds of synthetic fabrics and why those things were created and what's good about them and what's not, and all of that kind of thing. And I just didn't enjoy that part of it. That's not what I was reading it for. And so I was ready for this one to be done when I did get done with it. I did enjoy learning about the flax and cotton and the way that they discovered that those things can be woven into material that can then be turned into clothing or other things that we use fabric for. I did enjoy silkworms and spiders. Those two things, really enjoyed it. But after reading Paradise Falls this past year for the BookTube Prize, I didn't want to have anything to do with DuPont. I didn't want to have anything to do with the great big chemical companies. And it just made me mad all over again. So, Golden Thread, Kassia St. Clair. I think that this book is well researched, and I think that it reads well. It's just not what I particularly wanted, and so I was a little harsher on it than I would have been if I wouldn't have been expecting a certain thing when I was going into it. The Villa is the next one. This is by Rachel Hawkins. I was reading this for We Love Jenny Readathon. This is the group read for that. And so it is kind of a modern day retelling of the story of Mary Shelley, Percy Shelley, and Lord Byron, and Mary Shelley's stepsister, I think. And I read the whole thing because of the fact that it was the We Love Jenny Readathon, but it's not a book that I would ever recommend to anybody, and that's just simply because of what is contained within it. I don't feel good recommending it to people, but I do think that it was well written. I just don't like the content of it. So then I read Elemental. This is a little zine of poetry. It's written by Kortney Garrison. All of the poems in there are written by her. They're very short poems. They're not long. It's probably 20 pages at most, and each page only has one poem, and they are, no more usually than 4 or 5 lines. So it was a very short read. It was good. I read 2 or 3 a day and took a couple of days to do it. It was probably 3 days worth of reading for me. And they were wonderful. I thought they were well done. Nothing jumped out at me special about them, but I did like reading them very much. Then I read The Scene Stone. I learned about this on Tiffany's Patreon from one of the commenters on there. and she had said that she was reading like book 2 or 3 in this series about Arthur. And I love Arthurian, just about anything Arthurian, I really love. And this is like an upper middle grade kind of series about Arthur. And I had never heard of Kevin Crossley-Holland, and I asked if she was enjoying it. She said she was, and that she would recommend it. And so I found an audiobook of it on Libby. And so I listened to it, and she's right. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was well done, and it's middle grade, so there's nothing too heavy in it. And I just really appreciated it. And I'm gonna continue on reading the series. So as soon as my Libby hold is ready for the next one, I will listen to it. My library is still down, and so it is not looking like it's going to be back up and running anytime soon. They're still working on stuff, so it's going to be a bit before I can actually get physical books again. All right, the next 2 are both cozy mysteries, and they are by Amanda Flower, and they are the Farm to Table mystery series. The first one is called Farm to Trouble, and the second one is called Put Out to Pasture. And I don't know if I'm going to read more in this series as it comes out or not. I found the main character really, she irritated me. Let's put it that way. So I don't know if I'm going to continue. It's a very clean series so far. I've only read 2. And it does have a lot of the really nice elements of cozy mysteries. So it's just the main character for me that is kind of holding me back a little bit. All right, then I read Attack on Titan. This is a graphic novel or a manga. I guess it's a manga. And it is by Hajime Isayama. And this was for Victoria at a Musical Bookworms Patreon book club. And it was, I was warned ahead of time that it was a bit of a horror-esque kind of manga. And it's a good thing that I was warned because it gets quite graphic. It's about these gods or titans that basically are monsters, and the people that fight them. And I don't want to say too much about liking it or not, or doing much more about it on here, because we haven't had our Patreon discussion about it, and I want to make sure to not let anybody in too much on what I thought about it. But also I wanted to say thank you to Dave at Book Blather. He sent me his copy of Attack on Titan, and I just really appreciated it because I couldn't get the one that I had on hold from my library because of what happened at the library. So thank you, Dave. I appreciate you. All right, then I finished Smuggler. This is by Brother Andrew and a husband and wife duo. And I think is it John and Elizabeth Sherrill? It's the Sherrills, but I'm not sure if it's John and Elizabeth or not. I know it's Elizabeth. Anyway, Smuggler is Brother Andrew's story. And the Sherrills basically took it down in English so that it could be published to a broader audience. And they interviewed him, asked him questions, listened to his story, and put it all together. He was a young Dutch boy who was growing up during Nazi occupation. And he decided at a pretty young age that he wanted to enlist and be a soldier and go off on adventures. And it's just about his coming to the Lord and being used by God in a way that allowed him to get behind the Iron Curtain and distribute Bibles. And this book never fails. It was a reread for me. It never fails to just boost my faith and make me want to give God more credit and more opportunity to be bigger in my life and to give him credit for the big things that are happening in my life. And also to step out more often and trust him and have that faith. So I really needed this book, especially after Confederacy of Dunces. I just needed something that was going to be wonderful and that I knew I was going to really enjoy, keep me from getting into a slump. So yes, God's Smuggler. Boys wanted outside. So that was God's Smuggler. Okay, last one, Unbound. This is by Michael R. Miller, and it is book 2 in the Songs of Chaos. And I had a harder time with this one because you guys all know, if you've been here for any length of time, that I am not a battle and war and weapons and armor and all of that. I just don't enjoy reading that, even in my fantasy novels. And so this one was much more war, many more battles, much more talk about forging armor and the types of armor and the types of weapons and all of that. However, there were some wonderful things in this book, and I definitely want to continue. The first one I just devoured. This one took me a little bit longer to get through because I just didn't care about all of the ins and outs of the battle and how they were, fighting and what their strategies were and all of that. I didn't care. So I just wanted to be back with our characters, which we saw a lot less of because we were much more engrossed in the battles themselves. Okay, so yeah, we just didn't get as much character time because we were more trying to move the plot forward, I think. And so I'm looking forward to book 3 and seeing how this series wraps up. But so far, I'm really enjoying it. Okay, that is all of the books that I have read so far. Currently, I am in the middle of Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. I'm reading this with Priscilla from The Evening Reader, Sandy from Ms. Reads a Lot, and Gemma was reading with us, but she has called it quits. It is a weird book. It's a little strange, but it hasn't put me off completely yet. And then I am reading The Vicar of Wakefield by Oliver Goldsmith, and I'm reading that with Stephanie from Ms. Richards Reads and Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia, and we are really loving it. It's making us laugh, and it is endearing, and so we're loving that one. And then also I am buddy reading The Feather Thief, and oh my goodness, I've forgotten who it's by. I'm gonna make sure to put it up though. So The Feather Thief is a nonfiction, and I'm buddy reading it with Talia from Bandana Book Mom. And that one is going really well also. Just, it's intriguing. It's really intriguing. We're only doing a couple chapters a day, and I could, at this point, sit down and just absolutely devour it. So enjoying those three, and then also continuing to read Look Unto Me, which is Charles Spurgeon. That's my devotional daily. And my Bible study is in the book of Esther. So reading that, and anything else. And I'm reading Two Towers, which is the second book in the Lord of the Rings, and it's a reread, but it's for Tiffany's Patreon. So that is all that I am currently reading. And I don't know what's up next. I can't remember. I know that I have things written down, but I'm not at home. So that's everything from me, you guys. I would love to know if you've read any of these and kind of what your opinions on them were. Have you read If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler? And did you find it odd? Thanks for joining me. Like if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to.